Gonna be working on the Firebird a little tonight. Finally gonna post a video working on this thing. So far, the report from Malachi on the Camaro is that it's still running good. Hasn't overheated anymore, hasn't had any problems with that. There were some air bubbles in the cooling system and he just had to add some coolant in the morning. But he's been driving it around and really enjoys it. I think it might need a little bit of work on the shift cable itself adjustment, but the transmission itself is shifted good. But it's kind of difficult to get the right gear with that aftermarket shifter that's in there. But here we have the Firebird. So we are going to be removing the valve covers and adjusting the valves. And I think I've got them lash set too tight. It's a hydraulic flat tappet cam shaft that's in it, and I think I've got like a quarter to a half turn. Well, I really don't know exactly how many turns I've got on the preload for the lifters at this point. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to back them all 100% off and start that process over, make sure it's set right. And then because it's cooler out now here in Michigan, starting to cool off, it was about, I think it's mid 50s right now. We got to jet the carburetor up a little bit, probably just in the front. I think so. At least I'm not 100% sure on that because I changed a few things since the spring. But this spring I had the dual plane intake on it, and when I jetted it down for summer with the dual plane, I didn't have to touch the back. I only had to touch the front. But with this bigger intake on there, single plane, I had to change all the jetting to make it run right, make the air-fuel ratio happy. So I'm not sure exactly if we're gonna have to do fronts or backs or both or air bleeds or whatever. So, but first we need to fix a exhaust leak. The bolts on my Y pipe where it connects to my headers on the passenger side are coming loose and it's leaking pretty bad, and that's probably throwing off my air-fuel ratio gauge as well. So we're gonna have to tighten those up first to see what's going on. But yeah, gonna be working on here tonight, and I'm pretty excited to make a video about it because I'm gonna put up, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos, and I haven't even like touched this car, and this is my car. So yeah, we'll see how it goes tonight. Alright, so I was just underneath the car tightening up a couple of loose exhaust bolts, and we're going to start it up and see if that fixed our exhaust leak. Hopefully it did. Sounds a lot better to me. It was terrible right over here. You could just hear it rushing out. Now, hold on, let me grab a light. Right in there is where my O2 sensor goes in. And I know that spot leaks because it was, I welded it and I did a terrible job. That's just what it is. But I know it leaks some, but it was leaking right at the base of the header where it hooks into the Y pipe, but it sounds a whole lot better now. Let's listen to this cam here a minute. Alright. Alright, valve covers are off. I got this side of valves. I got the locks broke loose and the nuts backed off. They're all loose now, so I can start over with the valve adjustment, because I really didn't know exactly how many turns in from when you can't turn the push rod anymore we were at. So I'd rather just start over and know 100% where we're at, know that nothing's overdone, and do it right this time. Gotta break all these locks loose on this side, get all the nuts backed off, and then there's multiple ways that you can adjust your valves, and they both work. One is a little easier than the other, but it's the same end result really. So you can, first way, a lot of people use this way, is that you bring the motor up to top dead center, cylinder number 1, so you use your timing mark, and then you adjust cylinder number 1, and then turn it 90 degrees, and then go to the next cylinder, the firing order, so cylinder 8, and you do that, and then so on and so forth throughout the firing order. Or a little easier way is if you don't really know when you're at cylinder top dead center on cylinder number 1, if you have an improperly marked balancer or whatever, you just tighten them all down until you can't turn the push rod, or until you can't jiggle the push rod up and down, and then turn the motor 90 degrees. Do that for all the valves. You do that for 2 full rotations of the crankshaft. You do it for 2 full rotations because the camshaft is only, it's about whatever, it's a 1-to-2 ratio, right? So every 2 times the crankshaft goes around, the camshaft spins over 1 full rotation. So you need to turn the crankshaft over twice, adjusting all the valves every 90 degrees in order to get the same result as the first way. But those are the 2 ways you can adjust the valves. Okay, something I forgot to mention about adjusting valves. Once you get, whichever way you choose, if you choose to go cylinder by cylinder or do all of them, all 8, all at the same time, once you get to where you are at 0 lash, meaning this is tightened down so that the push rod has 0, the valve and the push rod, rocker arm, all of it has 0 lash, which means you cannot move it up and down. You should still be able to twist it. A lot of people go by the twist. I do not, just because if you go until you can't twist it, you're already pushing in on your hydraulic lifter. So when you're at 0 lash, 0 movement up and down, then you go, and different manufacturers have a different specification or whatever in the instructions. It's kind of just a suggestion mostly, a place to start, because you can end up over lashing, I guess, or whatever. I don't know exactly what you call it. Over tightening your valves and putting too much preload on your lifter if you over tighten it. So typically it's 90 degrees or a 1/4 turn to 3/4 of a turn. So I'm gonna go with a 1/4 turn on all of these. I believe they were somewhere around 3/4 of a turn, and I think that was just too much preload, and I was losing some lift out of the cam and out of the valves, and that'll make it be down on power. So we're gonna go with a 1/4 turn and see where that puts us. Okay, we got the valves all lashed. Let's start her up and see how she sounds. Give her a quick squirt of fuel here. Not bad. Not bad at all. Idling just under 1,000. Air fuel ratio is good. For idle, I like it about 14.5 to 14.7. Well, anywhere in the 14s really, but preferably around 14.5 to 14.7. For idling, it just gets a little better mileage while it's idling that way. And then what I want to see when I'm cruising down the road, part throttle cruise is around 14. I don't want to see it any leaner than 14. Anything in the 15s is no good for me. But I want to see it around 12.5 to 13 when you're at wide open. So yeah, I haven't touched the jetting at all. All I did was fix the exhaust leak. We gotta let this warm up, and I'll have to open the garage door so I don't end up asphyxiating myself. But I gotta let this thing warm up so that I can get an accurate warm engine idle, reset the idle speed. I want it idling just a little bit lower than this, and then make sure I get my idle mixture screws turned out just right. But sounds pretty good back here. Okay, so we got the valves adjusted and got the exhaust leak fixed tonight. So our air fuel ratio is reading correctly now. It wasn't sucking in extra air, and our valves should be better adjusted than they were before. I went ahead while I was running after I did the valves and adjusted the idle mixture screws back to where I was happy with the air fuel ratio I was having there. Happy with the throttle response. I haven't driven it yet for like part throttle cruise or anything like that, but I know that the full throttle is probably going to be all right. And if anything's going to need adjusting, it's going to be that part throttle cruise, and I'll probably just end up throwing a couple jet sizes in the front. But I'll do that tomorrow morning. Yeah. Oh, one other thing. There is a third way, and a lot of people end up doing this way, to adjust your valves. And that is with the motor running with the valve covers off, and then going along to every valve, backing it off until it ticks, and then tightening it back down until it stops ticking, and then adding your quarter to half turn of preload. I didn't have to end up doing that, but a lot of people end up having to do that. It can be very, very messy because you have your valve covers off and oil comes up through your push rods and can sometimes squirt onto your exhaust and it gets real nasty. But it's a very accurate way to get all of your valves adjusted to right where they need to be. So yeah, that is going to be it for tonight. I'm going to drive it tomorrow and see how she cruises around.
So I went to my Bible study this morning with my group of guys from church, and Malachi, the guy who owns the yellow Camaro I've been working on with, he drove his Camaro. We did a little cruising this morning. He says it's running real good. I think we got to do some adjustments with the governor and the 700 R4. Ship points are just a little off, but we'll figure that out. For now, he's driving, he's liking it, and we figured out. We started to run a little hot while we were cruising today, and what's going on is the relay for his cooling fan is kind of in and out, so we're going to have to replace that. But it's good that we know what that is now, so that we can fix it. We went to Cedar Springs this morning about 8:30. They have in their red flannel days this weekend, but they got a car show this morning, and the car show is supposed to start at like 9 o'clock and go to like 11 or so. But we cruised through about 8:30 and just checked out some of the cars